From time to time, you want to limit the number of rows that come back, but you don't necessarily want to do it with the where clause. So we can use the top command to limit the number of rows returned to the specified number. Now we can also specify a percentage, and we can use the top % syntax. Now we can also say, you know what, I want to see the top 5 salespeople in the territory, but if anybody ties for last place, let me see all 3 of those. So I can use the with ties syntax to see any ties in that last place position. And if I use the with ties portion, then I'll also have to use the order by clause as well. Now, whenever you're using top, it is a really good idea to use order by. Keep in mind, Microsoft's always going to recommend that you use order by to ensure you're getting the proper order, but especially whenever top is used. It's the only way to predictably indicate which rows are affected by top. Now, while we're out there in the Management Studio, I want to show you a little trick. Top is used to return rows graphically in the object browser, and by default, it turns the top 1,000 rows, and you're thinking, man, that's a lot just to be able to right-click and look at something. We can change that in Tools Options, and I'll show you that. So let's jump out to the SQL Server Management Studio and take a look at this. If you remember, if let's say from time to time, I'm trying to write queries, I'm trying to develop a store procedure, and I want to know what's out there in the person.person table. Well, if I execute that, I already know what's going to happen, right? 19,972 rows are going to come back. And if you look right down here in the lower right, you can see 19,972 rows. Now, the only reason I executed this query is I wanted to see the columns that are in it. I wanted to see something about the data that's in it. Well, notice all I had to do was say select top 3 and execute that. And notice it gave me the top 3. Much, much faster, much more efficient on my database. And notice I could have even said select top 1, and that's even better. Gives me an idea of the data, how it's going in. It lets me see the column names and so forth, okay? So select top is a great way to go. Now, notice that if there's 19,000 rows, I could say, you know, let's do the top 50%. All right? Actually, let's do top 10%. Now, I already know that if I executed this without the top there, it would give me 19,972. So watch when we execute with top 10%, and let's see what we get. We got about 1,998, which is roughly 10% of 19,972. Now, keep in mind that top 10% is of the number of rows that would have returned if you didn't use the top. It has nothing to do with the data that's in the database. It is the percentage of the rows being returned by the query. So make sure that makes sense to you. There's a lot of places throughout the course where we may use top, and I'll tell you and I'll point it out. But this is a really powerful command, especially when you're doing some development in the database. Now, the next thing I want to show you, I'm going to close the query screen out here. Remember how out here we can right-click on any table and choose select top 1,000 rows, and it comes back, it puts the query there, and then notice right over here, it queries and gets 1,000 rows, right? And there you go. Well, that seems like a lot to me, so let's go out here and let's go to Tools, up on the menu bar up there, the main menus, go to Options, and notice under SQL Server Object Explorer, under Commands, right here, the value table and view options, the value for select top N rows. I'm going to change that to 50. And I'll click OK there. And I'm going to close this out and do a new query. And I'll go back to person address. And notice I'll select the top 50 rows now. And that is a whole lot better for checking those. Now, if you're a person who likes to use that functionality to see that, and obviously we could change that to the top 5 rows so that we can see the structure and the columns and so forth and the data that's going in there. And again, you just go to Tools, Options, and yours is going to look like this when it comes up. It actually might even look something like this. Just go down to SQL Server Object Explorer, go to Commands, and grab this bottom one right here and change this number to whatever you would like. And that'll help you with that graphical, selecting, and that's just putting a top in there so it'll return those results to you. So anyway, So quick look at the top command. You'll see it later on as we move through the course as well.